Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here in Foley Square by the Southern District of New York Courthouse. Today, Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. Now, the Trump docket is jumping. As we reported late last week, Team Trump filed a notice of removal with Judge Hellerstein in the tall building behind me, 500 Pearl Street, seeking to remove the case just up the street of Judge Merchan before the still scheduled September 18th sentencing. This was then bounced as not having the consent of the opponent, Alvin Bragg, at Team Bragg, Colangelo et al., and or not leave of Judge Hellerstein. So yesterday, as we predicted, Team Trump applied for such leave. They moved to have their motion considered, and by 5 p.m., Judge Hellerstein shot it down, saying that nothing in the Supreme Court decision affected his original decision, and his quote is that hush money payments are not a presidential function. By midnight, 11:30 p.m., Team Trump has appealed to the Second Circuit, which is in the tall building behind me, 40 Foley Square. Now, many people love the Hellerstein quote. I think the issue, whatever, that will come up on the appeal is not whether hush money payments are presidential acts, but whether the trial in front of Judge Merchan, because it was before the decision, didn't included evidence that under the Supreme Court's decision shouldn't be included in such a case. This would be, for example, the testimony of Hope Hicks, Madeline Westerhouse. These were both. I was there at the time, and these were definitely things saying in the Oval Office. So it's the kind of thing that actually Jack Smith is trying to avoid with the superseder, including evidence in the case that the Supreme Court has said should not be considered. So we'll see what happens with the appeal. I actually just ran into one of the Second Circuit judges in the street, said hello. Obviously didn't talk about the case. But there's that. That's sort of a big one. Across the river in EDNY, surprise, surprise, staffer of the New York governor, Linda Sun, indicted for FARA violations of being an agent of the Chinese government and, among other things, blocking meetings between people from Taiwan, including officials, and New York State officials. Now, it's one thing, this happens at the UN. The UN doesn't even allow anyone from Taiwan into the building, okay? So the UN is entirely purchased, but one doesn't expect it in Albany or at 633 or whatever it is, 3rd Avenue. So she's been indicted. The payments are kind of interesting in the sense that one of the payments is salted ducks to her husband, but it's more than salted ducks. There's real estate, cars, Hawaii properties. So that's a case that we're going to be covering quite closely in the wake of the Miles Guo trial here and other trials, the UN corruption trials. It's been proved clearly that the UN is in league, through the China Energy Fund Committee, which was convicted down here and moved to buy the oil company of the Gulbenkian Foundation that was paying Antonio Guterres. And Guterres never disclosed it, and Inner City Press, which reported it, remains thrown out and banned from the UN, seeking to reverse that. Now, in the UN, though, from the outside, we can cover it. Now, Slovenia is the president of the Security Council for September, which is a high-profile job because it's the month of the high-level week of the UN. So yesterday we've submitted questions in writing, including this, to Slovenia as they took over the Security Council president. What was the role of former Prime Minister NYS Jansa, convicted of bribery, 2-year sentence, in getting them the Security Council seat? He met with people. He promoted the seat. They held a press conference, which they didn't even have on UN TV, much less allowing Inner City Press to ask any questions. And what I can tell you is that Ambassador Sam Zablogar held a press conference pontificating on many, many things, but there was no answer to the question of Mr. Jansa or any of the other questions that Inner City Press submitted. That's why we've had Quinn Emanuel and Dwayne Morris, both pro bono law firms, write to the UN, but they didn't answer. The UN, which has rebuffed its duty, its promise to somehow pay for a green belt along the river, they're reneging on that. They talk about the environment, but they don't come through on anything. Totally corrupt. In any event, we're going in now to cover an organized crime case in 40 Foley. To be continued, Inner City Press.